Hello, sixth graders. This is Mr. Scrow, and welcome back to another music lesson. Today, we are going to be transitioning from the medieval period to the Renaissance period via our 20th lesson for this school year. You heard me right. This is our 20th lesson for the entire school year. Let's get started. The Renaissance period extended from around 1400 to 1600. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to develop a fundamental and introductory understanding of the Renaissance musical time period and explain what led people out of the Dark Ages of the medieval period to the Renaissance. The Renaissance period was an era when learning and inquiry were beginning to take hold within society over what was sometimes considered to be the dogma and mysticism of the Middle Ages. It was a rebirth. Renaissance literally translates to rebirth from Latin. It was a rebirth of ideas and art of the ancient Greeks and Romans. Society saw a rise of ingenuity, creativity, ambition, and individualism in commerce, politics, and in intellectual circles. Achievement in art, music, reading and writing, learning, philosophy, and science especially rose to an entirely new level during the Renaissance. Great artists whose names were known throughout Europe created masterpieces using new techniques and styles such as perspective, shadowing, and detailed emotion. For those of you that don't know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a popular cartoon that took hold in the late 1980s and early 90s. Named after Italian Renaissance artists, the turtles were trained by their anthropomorphic rat sensei in the Japanese martial art of ninjutsu. Some of you may ask, is that the reason that you know so much about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Because you were into them when you were a child, Mr. Scrow? Some of you might be shocked to learn that my now 26-year-old son is the one that loved them, not me. I was already a teacher when these turtles were at the height of their popularity. Anyway, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Leonardo, were named after Renaissance artists. Donatello was a famous sculptor. Raphael was known for his famous paintings. Michelangelo was known for both his painting and sculpture. In fact, he's credited with painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. And Leonardo da Vinci was known as an artist, but also as an inventor as well. On this slide, we have two important non-musical figures of the Renaissance period. Have you heard of William Shakespeare and Christopher Columbus? Tell me what you know about these two people in the chat. You should be writing in the chat at this time. I'll be right back with a brief summary. William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest writer of dramas. Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer and navigator who completed 4 voyages across the Atlantic Ocean, opening the way for European exploration and colonization of the Americas, were the first contact with the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. The prevailing reason of thought prior to the Renaissance period was that the Earth was the center of the universe. Although he was not the first to figure out heliocentrism, Galileo is the person that spread the idea around the most that the Earth, in fact, revolves around the sun and not the other way around. He actually got into quite a lot of trouble for his way of thinking. The Renaissance was a reaction to life during the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, very few people knew how to read. Books were rare and most were written in Latin, which was not a language spoken by everyday people. The Renaissance got its start when a group of writers and scholars in Italy began to seek out the knowledge of classical Rome and Greece. These Italians looked back on ancient Greece and Rome, the period from about 400 BC to AD 476, as a time when literature, philosophy, art, and architecture all flourished. Medieval art, in contrast to the ancient statue you just saw on the last page, was not nearly as realistic looking. The baby in this painting looks more like a tiny man than a real baby. It's not that people forgot how to create realistic art after the Roman Empire, it's that it wasn't a priority. In the 1300s, this new group of writers and scholars began calling themselves humanists, and they referred to the time in which they were living as the Dark Ages. They thought knowledge, education, culture, and innovation was not thriving in their own times. To bring back the light, they sought out, rediscovered, and studied books written in ancient Rome and Greece. They wanted to relight the fire of an intellectual and civic life that they believed had been snuffed out since the fall of the Roman Empire. In summary, this is important, Renaissance thinkers wanted to recreate the thinking of ancient Greek and Roman times that focused on human achievement in the arts, sciences, and philosophy. Given all that you have heard on the previous slides about art, science, and philosophy, what do you think music sounded like in the Renaissance? Remember, Renaissance thinkers desired to move away from the closed-minded thinking of the medieval period. How was Renaissance music different than music from the medieval period like Gregorian chant? Take a guess. I will give you a few moments to jot down some ideas in the chat. Let's see if what you guessed was correct. Jot down characteristics you hear in these examples contrasted with what you remember about medieval chant. Share your thoughts in the chat. Now is the month of May, when merry lads are playing. Now is the month of May, when merry lads are playing. Each week is falling us upon the green of each week is falling us upon the green of This one is just for fun for those of you Katy Perry fans out there. Unlike in medieval times when chant was the dominant kind of music, the biggest style in the Renaissance was called the madrigal. A madrigal is a song with multiple parts, usually about love, drama, or nature, sung by both men and women. I knew you were gonna come to me. And here you are, but you better choose carefully. 'Cause I'm capable of anything, and everything. Make me your Aphrodite, make me your one and only. But don't make me your enemy, your enemy, your enemy, your enemy, your enemy. So you wanna play with magic, magic? Boy, you should know what you're falling for. Baby, do you dare this? 'Cause I'm coming at you like a dark horse. Are you ready for a perfect storm? A perfect storm, perfect storm, perfect storm, perfect storm. 'Cause once you're mine, once you're mine, once you're mine, 'cause once you're mine, there's no going back. La 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 la. Mark my words, this love will make you levitate like a bird without a cage. Down to earth if you choose to walk away. To walk away, don't walk away. The palm of your hand now, baby. It's a yes or a no, no, maybe. So just be sure, trust me before you give it up to me, up to me, up to me, up to give it up to me. So you wanna play with magic, magic? Boy, you should know what you're falling for. Baby, do you dare this? 'Cause I'm coming at you like a dark horse. Are you ready for a perfect storm? A perfect storm, perfect storm, perfect storm, perfect storm. 'Cause once you're mine, once you're mine, once you're mine, 'cause once you're mine, there's no going back. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. All right, so we're going to do a little compare and contrast between the medieval and Renaissance music on this slide and learn some new vocabulary along the way. So as you recall, in the medieval music unit that we listened to previously in class, a lot of the music that we listened to was sacred, meaning that it had religious connotation. And in many cases, the music text was borrowed directly from the Bible. And it was at the time written in the Latin language. And one of the issues that had arisen in writing down lyrics in Latin is that not everyone could read and write in Latin at that time. So it was a huge obstacle for some people to not only be able to read music, but also to read just the words in Latin. A lot of the melodies were in unison, so it was just one part at a time. And even if a group of people were singing, they were only singing a unison melody, so just one melody. There was very, very little harmony until the end of the medieval period. So the other thing is that the music that we listened to used voices only. There were very little instrument playing in that time. You did not mix instruments and singing at the same time. It was just very plain, very simple. And it featured only men or only women singing, not mixed. And as you recall, because it had the religious text, it was very somber and pensive in mood. Now, contrasting all of that with the music that you just listened to on the previous slides and the Renaissance music we just listened to, we introduced music that was more secular, meaning that it was not just religious, that sacred music had its place, but there was also music to be entertaining or to reflect on things like love or other things. The first harmony was not actually long drawn out chords. They were actually many parts, like you heard in the madrigal, many parts being sung at the same time. So we call that polyphonic. We're going to be talking a lot about polyphonic music in the next few weeks. In the everyday language, not just Latin. So that this is after the fall of the Roman Empire, which certainly a lot of people spoke Latin and understood Latin, but now their music was now being written in English and French and other languages in Europe. And now you're going to see in the Renaissance that they use both voice and instruments, and they mix them quite a bit. There were still many pieces that were just voice or just instruments, but now we start mixing them. And they featured men and women singing at the same time in this type of music. And the mood has changed. We still have somber music for church, very pensive, but we also now have introduced a very joyful sound in the mood. During this unit, we will incorporate another creative project. But for now, let's answer a few questions on the Google Classroom in an exit ticket about what you just read and watched. So head on over to the Google Classroom and fill out the exit ticket for From Medieval to Renaissance. I will be here for the rest of the class period if you have any further questions about the Renaissance period or the work that you're to complete for today. Thank you for completing the exit ticket for Medieval to Renaissance at this time.